Denver's mayor and clerk are battling over election funding. Might it also be a preview of the next race for mayor?
We're not asking for anything extra. What we're asking for is to maintain the access that we currently have.
Colorado's congressional reps are warned that food bank lines are long and getting longer because of the government shutdown.
We're already seeing a huge need in our community.
Beer, delicious, delicious beer, is being held hostage in a tax dispute. A nonprofit planned to use it for a fundraiser.
How do I get the beer from here to somewhere else?
And the Denver Botanic Gardens branching out to tell new stories. Tonight on Next. Denver has a so-called strong mayor system, meaning that the mayor wields more power than the city council and other city leaders. But Denver's clerk and recorder is pushing back strongly against any budget reductions as he gets ready to run next year's elections. Our Marshall Zellinger looks at whether this back and forth between the mayor and the clerk is really about election security or positioning for the next mayoral election.
In a $200 million citywide budget cut, the clerk's office was cut $4.5 million. On Monday, Mayor Mike Johnston added back $800,000. In his letter saying so, Johnston also wrote, providing millions in new funding to the clerk when every other department is making cuts would result in even steeper cuts to other programs and personnel. I asked the clerk today if he would accept a full budget if that meant other departments got cut or more people got fired.
That's not my decision. And at the end of the day, the requirement to balance the budget shouldn't be off of the backs of employees. There are other things in the budget that probably can be cut without telling somebody that they have a pink slip.
Clerks' offices get reimbursed for running elections for others. This year, Denver Public Schools will pay the city clerk to run the school board elections. And next year, state law requires a 45% reimbursement from the Colorado Secretary of State's office. So is the clerk's budget really that bad?
That money doesn't come straight to us. That money goes to the general fund, which we have no control over. Hopefully, that gets reallocated to us, but that's a big hope.
Would you sue the city over lack of funding?
I hope it doesn't have to get to that point.
You're hopeful it wouldn't come to that. Would you sue the city?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. We're going to do everything possible to make sure that we don't have to get to that point.
Lopez wanted a new elections building that did not get included in the Denver bond issues. Now he wants a full budget when all agencies are facing cuts.
Are you running for mayor?
No, I'm not running for mayor. I filed for clerk and recorder. If standing up for democracy it means I'm running for mayor, that doesn't make sense.
Don't even ask me, by the way, where the money would come from for a lawsuit from one city agency to another. City Council has ultimate approval of the city budget. Lopez could still get full funding, and right now, Kyle, he estimates he's $2.7 million shy of what he needs to run next year's election.
I'm curious to see if Clerk Lopez kind of becomes the focal point for criticism against the mayor, right? Because mayor's got some big problems. There's always people who are sniping against the mayor, but there's no real face of the criticism against Mayor Johnson right now. It's coming from the far left. It's coming from the far right. Lopez isn't particularly either.
I'm smiling because have you seen some city council meetings lately?
Well, yeah, all of them are mad at the mayor. But what I'm saying is there's not a singular voice that is like the mayor versus this person. This is the closest I think we've seen.
And it's unique because they are both elected positions, independently elected. Yeah. And I wonder, and I don't know the answer to this, if any of this is when Denver went from an appointed clerk to an elected clerk, if there were some behind the scenes things that didn't get figured out. Because his budget, it's almost like DIA. City council controls the budget. He writes his own budget, but City Council has to say okay, just like DIA has to get approval. Can I spend some money, please, sir? And it works all the time for DIA, but for the clerk, it's not working right now.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is Denver mayor is the boss of a lot of things, but the clerk is reminding him, you're not the boss of me. Mm-hmm. All right, Marshall Zellinger, thank you. So we are now 3 weeks into the government shutdown, and Republicans have kept the House of Representatives out of session, out of work that whole time. 2 of Colorado's congressmen were home and saw the impacts of the shutdown firsthand today. They visited food banks that are preparing for a flood of new customers when federal food benefits run out next month. Colorado's Department of Human Services is warning people who rely on SNAP food benefits that their November benefits will be on hold until the federal government restores funding. The state says the shutdown has held up about $120 million in federal funds for the next month of benefits, and they're telling 600,000 Coloradans who rely on SNAP that they need to go to local food banks instead. Democratic Congressman Joe Neguse listened to food bank leaders in his district today, and they told him that they're worried about their ability to keep up with growing demand.
We went into this fiscal year, which started July 1st for us, with already a $600,000 deficit and a $1 million cut in food purchase. For us to look at how are we going to help fill the gap while we're already $1.6 million in the hole is a very trying time for the organization as we look through how are we going to get the food that our community needs.
Republican Congressman Gabe Evans also met with leaders at the Weld Food Bank in his district today. After the meeting, a spokesperson for the food bank told us they're already dealing with lines around the block and preparing to serve even more people when benefits lapse in November.
We're seeing the challenges, as you can see right behind me, which is a line down the road every single day, serving about 1,700 people a day through our emergency food program and senior feeding programs, which is how many people we used to serve in a week. It's about 40,000 people here in Weld County who in about a week or two are going to have no social safety net for their food, and they're going to turn to food banks that are already stretched very thin.
If the shutdown stretches into November, then WIC food benefits for women, infant, and children could also be at risk. Colorado state legislators dipped into the state's general fund to keep that program afloat for October. Today, the governor's office told us they're still looking at options to shore up the program for next month if needed. Denver's joining a group of Democrat-run cities suing the Trump administration for trying to tie emergency funding to compliance with the administration's views on diversity, equity, and inclusion. The lawsuit claims the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA added conditions to grant recipients in April requiring that cities certify that they don't have programs promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. The lawsuit argues the condition violates the separation of powers and are unconstitutionally vague and ambiguous. Friends, there is beer in danger of being wasted in Denver, and sadly, it is not clear that we can do anything to save it no matter how thirsty we are. This beer is stuck inside a brewery seized for unpaid taxes. The beer actually belongs to a nonprofit which planned to use the beer for a fundraiser. Our Spencer Soysher explains.
Outside of Raíces Brewing, there's beer to be had.
And I'm just waiting,
But it's beer sitting in a tank inside that's now impossible to have.
It's right behind me in a vat.
John Jaramillo runs the Hispanic Restaurant Association, and he came up with the idea to create their own beer to help the association generate revenue. Vertigo beer will be served at their partner restaurants.
Our goal was to develop a long-term funding mechanism for the HRA. All our restaurants, all of them, 100% of them, serve beer.
The plan was to have the first commercial batch crafted at Raíces.
And so we struck a deal. I paid him for the beer, and then about a few weeks later, I got the call.
That call from the brewery's owner. The city of Denver was seizing the place for unpaid taxes.
And it was a week away from being finished, and then put into a keg.
10 to 15K worth of beer trapped in one of the tanks, though he and his beer guy are not sure which tank or which stage.
It comes down to a taste test. If there's any perceptible oxidation, it might be a lost cause.
So John called the city for help.
I'm asking the city to give us access to get the beer out there, transport it to another location where it can be conditioned and finished.
But they won't open the doors for him. A city spokesperson says, quote, if there was a legal way for the city to give Mr. Jaramillo the beer, we would. The city says it's bound by Section 53-26 of the Municipal Code, which won't allow the city to release any property from the business right now.
I'm just asking for a little bit of goodwill and grace because of the community stuff we've done for the city.
But it appears goodwill and grace will not be opening these doors.
My goal is just, it seems like a solvable problem. That's my ask of the city. Help me solve it.
I did get the sense from the city today that it genuinely feels bad about this situation, but wasn't going to break their laws to fix this. Ultimately, the city says this is the fault of the business owner who was more than $98,000 behind in unpaid taxes.
So, Spencer, so if my laptop is sitting in a business and the business gets seized for unpaid taxes, nobody can go in and get my laptop out?
That certainly seems, if it gets to this point, what the message is. I asked him, I was like, is there any way you could have seen this coming? Like, is there something you could have done? He's like, well, and then I thought about it for a second. I was like, well, maybe even if a plant was seized, they'd have the same problem.
It's just a shame to see it happen to beer. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's just a shame. Well, if they need help, they know that a lot of us out there are willing to help a couple pints at a time. Spencer, thank you. One of the City of Denver's biggest tenants is hundreds of thousands of dollars behind in rent. Another ding to the city's budget at a time when money's already tight. The city says the leaseholders for the Denver Post building on Colfax stopped paying rent back in August. It's $650,000 a month plus late fees, so they currently owe the city about $2.5 million. The city bought the old Post building last year for $88 million. They eventually want to turn it into courtroom space. The missed payments add another layer to the city's budget issues. The mayor and city council have been working out how to figure out the $200 million budget shortfall, and the city laid off more than 170 workers this year. So last week, we told you that Denver's most troubled homeless shelter was constantly calling police. Well, it turns out firefighters are also racing there several times a week to deal with overdoses. New data show that in the past year, Denver Fire has responded to 79 overdoses at the Aspen Hotel Shelter. That's the former Doubletree off Quebec. It's nearly 20% of all the calls to that location. We reported last week Denver police had also been called to that same location 431 times in the last 10 months. The city of Denver has been running security there for the last year, but that soon will change. City Council is considering a $10 million contract with a national organization to come in and run that shelter next year. That's more than $3 million additional beyond what it's cost this year to run it, and a lot of that extra money is supposed to go toward increasing security. A bunch of ash holes are likely to pop up along the Front Range soon as an invasive tree-eating bug has spread to 20 cities.
I just wanted to celebrate the fact that I grew up with this agricultural background of nourishing the land.
It is a sparkling new view of plants at the Denver Botanic Gardens. Next. An invasive beetle that attacks ash trees has now been detected in 20 cities along the Front Range. And ash trees make up about 15% of urban trees in Colorado. Lose all those and things will be looking awful bare. Stripped down, some might say. The emerald ash borer was first found in Colorado in 2013 in Boulder. It's been spreading ever since. This year alone, CSU foresters say it's in 6 new cities: Aurora, Berthoud, Denver, Edgewater, Golden, and Wheat Ridge. Foresters expect the ash borer to keep expanding south. It'll likely be in Castle Rock and Colorado Springs in the next 5 years. If you have ash trees on your property, the experts say cover your ash with an annual treatment to keep the borer at bay, or if it's kind of mangy looking already, just replace it with another tree. Chris Bianchi, we've got 2 at our house.
Oh,
yeah.
You do?
No, I mean, no, I'm holding on to my ash with both hands because they're beautiful trees. I'd hate to lose them, but it might come to that.
Well, Ashley, Kyle, I think you could actually just maybe get that covered up and hopefully they'll survive it, right?
Hopefully, that's what we're trying, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. That's our preference, some might say.
Well, one thing you could do tonight too, and maybe a lot of you could do tonight, is check out Comet Lemon. It's your last chance to do so for the next 1,150 years. You'll be able to see it tonight. It's your last chance to do so for the next 1,100 years. That comet will be brightest tonight. Perfect viewing conditions for us here in Colorado. And if you look to the west-northwest here at sunset, you'll get your best vantage point. Though comets are notoriously fickle in terms of how to see them, so don't bank on that. But generally speaking, west-northwest will be your best opportunity to catch that comet. 20s, 30s tonight in the Eastern Plains. Same idea for us here in the mountains. Tomorrow we'll top out at 69 degrees again for us here in Denver today. Very similar to today, mostly sunny skies, light winds and warmer. 60s, 70s Eastern Plains, 50s and 60s in the mountains. Next storm system starts to impact us late tomorrow night with some clouds for us in the mountains and a few showers. But this really doesn't reach us until Thursday with some rain and mountain snow for us for Thursday night. And then by Friday morning, a few showers around for us here in Denver for Thursday night and Friday morning. However, eyes on next Monday when we could be talking about perhaps a few flakes for us here in Denver, but maybe a bit more significant mountain snowfall and some wind for us on Monday. That's our next kind of storm system of note. Until then, temperatures mostly in the 60s and 70s for us here in Denver and along the Front Range.
An artist celebrating her roots with a new exhibit at the Denver Botanic Gardens. Hey, a reminder, you can catch this program streaming each night, 6 p.m. on 9 News Plus. That's free to download on your TV. And next is a podcast each weeknight as well. The University of Northern Colorado plans to lay off about 50 staff positions as it faces a funding shortage and dropping enrollment. At a town hall last week, President Andy Einstein said there's about 8,400 grads and undergrads at UNC right now. That's down nearly 13,000 students from 7 years ago. University also says it lost some state funding this year, and those two factors led to an anticipated $14 million budget gap. University is going to lay off about 50 employees next month and not fill 30 positions. Faculty are safe. Creating art takes imagination, emotion, experience. Our Byron Reed shows us a unique exhibit full of all of those things, revealing a hidden story.
This is my first portrait of the two of them.
History can be told through the stroke of a brush.
It's something that I grew up not really appreciating, thinking that it was kind of like something I should be ashamed of, being from the South.
It's a part of Jazz Holmes' past that she doesn't want to go silent.
This is a new portrait I've done of my grandmother who recently passed and my mom.
Holmes is a local mixed media artist, and her artwork is on display at the Denver Botanic Gardens.
You were at my very first solo exhibition at the Denver Botanic Gardens, and this is my show, Nourish.
She says her family connected her to nature and agriculture through cooking.
There was one time I remember distinctly when I was a kid that my grandma, who was just so busy with everything else, told me to go out back and just pick something to eat from her backyard rather than make me a snack. And I ended up picking a cucumber randomly, but that cucumber changed my life.
Holmes identifies as Black Creole and says she wanted to spread the word about her family deeply rooted in the South.
After slavery, a lot of enslaved folks were given land to sharecrop. And a lot of that has been passed down to generations and generations. And my family is one of those families.
So getting people to really think about those stories for them and really sort of supporting these connections between family members and then also with nature, with plants.
Moira Casey is the assistant curator of exhibitions for the gardens. She believes this installation furthers their mission.
This idea that food is plants was, I think, something that we forget about. So just highlighting the importance of nutrition and how we're all part of this, we're all a part of nature, and food sustains us and plants sustain us in many different ways.
The installation also connects people by letting them share their favorite recipes.
Because everyone has that history, those memories around this certain thing that makes them happy.
Holmes hopes her art will bring people together.
I want them to go home and maybe want to cook or have a meal with someone.
To get a little glimpse of the food that says so much about her past.
Just wanted to celebrate the fact that I grew up with this agricultural background of nourishing the land, understanding sustenance, and learning how to cook with your family.
For Next, I'm Byron Reed.
Those paintings are stunning. We're back with your feedback next. Feedback tonight on that nonprofit fundraising beer being held hostage in the brewery seized in a tax dispute. Athena on Thread says at least it wasn't the rum. Athena, let's focus on the beer, shall we? Duro says, do I need to drive there and negotiate a release? Right? You would think there would be a solution to this. I feel like I want to look into this more. Like, is this a common thing? Like, if a fitness center gets seized for not paying taxes, do they sell off everybody's gym shoes? You can't get your gym shoes back? Is this a common thing? Maybe this happens all the time and I've just never heard of it. Maybe I only care because it's beer, but we'll figure it out next time.